We like to share stories and tips on wellness and recovery on the show. With more about this in our Walk the Talk segment, here's Kathleen Pichet.
Thanks, Karen. My guest today is Vaughn Harris.
Thank you. Welcome.
Growing up in the 1960s, Vaughn Harris experimented and used multiple variations of street drugs, including heroin, until he found himself living to use and using to live. 40 years of drug use and jail time passed before he realized that he lost control over his life. He finally got clean in 2000 and has been sober ever since. He gives back today by speaking to others about his journey of hope, wellness, and recovery. How did the actions of others help turn your life around?
Basically, people reached out to me. I believe really God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. I never asked people for help, and on my journey, I started seeing people that I used to know and I used to be in the streets with. I seen how they were looking and how they were doing, and they started giving me suggestions. And, they reached out to me, start going to some meetings, and people just welcomed me. And that was a little different from the lifestyle I had chose.
And you had a major sort of hurdle to get over when your wife died and you became homeless. How did you get out of that?
I started reaching out to people. I knew I didn't want to go back to where I was. At that time, I had been in recovery for a while, and I was overwhelmed. And what I didn't know was I was going through a lot of stress. My wife was my best friend, and I started to ask different people about different things, and I was recommended to a few programs, and somebody recommended a place called Pacific Clinics, and I went there, and I was still going to the 12-step programs I went to, but people started helping me and reaching out, and that really gave me a foothold.
Now you are helping others. You're speaking to people in prison, and how does that help you?
It gives me a purpose. When I go to the jail systems and speak to different people, I can remember when I was there, and I can remember how I just felt like there was nothing left in life. As I told you, I used to live and live to use. And then when I see them and I see them in there, and in the same attitude, and I believe by them seeing me and me relating to them, that they can see that, there's something else out there, and it's trying to pass on a hope that, you can gain control of your life.
Right, so if that guy can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
That's great.
It reminds me of where I came from.
Exactly. So how does your community help you support your wellness?
I think the community sees me and they smile, and I'm all, and sometimes I do little things for the neighbors and different little things. I had a neighbor that lived right next door, and they had just moved there. The wife had a baby, so I went and put some balloons on the porch, and congratulations from your neighbors. They didn't know who did it. They didn't know whether it was the ones on the other side across the street, but it's little things like that. And
That's
what
nice.
that causes is they speak to everyone. And, it's just the neighbors see me. I work in the yard, and it's, people have a smile on their face.
Right, and you live with a couple other people,
Right.
and you help them.
Right. Because
Also.
there was a time in my life where someone once told me, you look better going than coming. And now, and now people seem to have a smile on their face. And, it gives me a purpose in life.
Yeah, and I know you're working full-time now and
Yes,
doing
I
really
am.
well there. How does that help you with your wellness?
I feel needed. I feel like I'm doing something. It gives me a sense of well-being, because, I was on the other side for quite a while.
How many years were you on the other side?
Oh, it's very close to 40 years.
40 years is a long time.
Right. I got clean in 2000, and I can remember in the 60s being really out there.
It's never too late.
It's never too late. It doesn't matter how
That's the
old
message.
you are.
What does hope mean to you?
To me, hope is a desire. It's something that I want to achieve. I always wanted to be the best me that I can be. Like, we go through things in life, and I think those things that we go through in life build our character. It teaches us that there's a light on the other side, and sometimes we don't see that light. But if we keep walking forward, we take one step at a time, one day at a time, it gets better.
Good advice. What do you see yourself doing in the future? Is there anything different you do, or?
Maybe help others. I'm not saying that I run around looking for somebody to help, but basically when I see somebody in need that I feel is sincere, I'll try and reach out and help them. I try and give advice or do go a little extra footage for someone, you know, that makes me feel good inside. When I think about the things that I've done in my life that I had fun, basically when I did something for someone and it put a smile on their face, you know, and it wasn't for a purpose, I just did it because it needed, that still brings feelings of joy to me, and those are the things that I relish today.
That's great. Good advice for all of us. Thank you so much for being on Walk the Talk.
And thank you for having me.